When did doing exactly what you were told lead to someone's death? I was in 4th grade when my grandfather moved in after my grandmother died, and since Dad worked nights at the factory and slept during the day, the rule was carved in stone: don't wake him unless the house is on fire. Grandpa never let me forget it, often blocking my path to my parents' room with, "Your dad needs his sleep, come watch TV with Grandpa." It never felt like an invitation, more like a door slowly closing behind me. Afternoons became a minefield because he'd always have a reason to keep me near, patting the couch beside him, shifting closer if I sat away, letting his hand rest on my knee while we watched cartoons. Whenever I tried to leave, he'd lean on the rule like a wall, saying, "Don't wake your dad," so I'd turn back, swallowing whatever protest I had. Who would believe a kid over a grieving widower? The dress incident happened on a Tuesday when he called the school, pretended I was sick, and brought me home. From the hall closet, he pulled a pink dress from when I was 6, its lace yellowed and bow crushed, then held it up like a prize. "Your grandma loved this one," he said. "Put it on so we can take pictures." I backed away and said it didn't fit, yet he caught my wrist and made me stand there under bright lights while he took photo after photo, telling me to smile pretty. Standing there hollow, I imagined 100 ways to make him stop, though I was small and he was big, so I waited. Here's what he didn't know about 4th graders. We learn fast. That month in Girl Scouts, Mrs. Peterson taught us CPR, stroke, and heart attack symptoms, and how minutes can mean the difference between life and death. She explained how brain cells start dying after 4 minutes without oxygen, and after 10, even a rescue leaves a person changed. While it was meant to make us brave in a crisis, for me, it became something I could keep hidden, a secret card to play if I ever needed it. So 3 weeks later, when I was doing math homework and heard Grandpa make that wet, choking sound from his recliner, I knew exactly what was happening and what had to be done. He was bent forward with one hand to his stomach, his face draining to gray as he grabbed the trash can and vomited, the sour smell hitting the room. His hand clutched his chest, fingers tugging at his shirt, breathing shallow, while his left arm slid limp over the armrest and his eyes found mine. "Get Dad," he wheezed, panic sharp in his gaze. Mrs. Peterson's voice came back to me with chest pain, difficulty breathing, gray pallor, pain down the arm, classic heart attack. The right thing was to call 911 and start compressions if he stopped breathing, since that's what good girls do. Instead, I walked slowly to Dad's door and knocked softly, barely tapping really, then went back to the living room. "He won't wake up," I told Grandpa, whose eyes went wider as he reached for the phone on the side table, though I stepped over and slid it just out of reach. "You told me never to wake Dad," I said quietly, giving him the same creepy smile he'd given me when Dad wasn't looking. He tried to speak again, yet only broken sounds came out. The power in the room shifted completely. He wasn't the man blocking doorways anymore, but rather an old man whose heart was failing, while I was the only one who knew exactly how much time he had. I counted 1 minute, then 2, as the vein in his forehead bulged. 3 minutes passed, and his movements got frantic, then sloppy, until 4 minutes marked what Mrs. Peterson had shown with 4 raised fingers, the start of real brain damage. 5 minutes arrived, and his eyes rolled white. Then at 6, I knocked on Dad's door again, just a little harder. "Dad?" I called softly, knowing he wouldn't hear through his earplugs, then returned to watch Grandpa's chest rise and fall like a weak accordion, and by 7, his head lolled and his mouth slackened. At 8 minutes, I walked back and knocked normally, the way I would if I needed lunch money, then waited for him to groan and tell me to go away like always. "Dad, I think Grandpa fell asleep in his chair, but he's making weird noises," I said through the door, keeping my voice casual. "Sophie, let him sleep," Dad mumbled back, clearly annoyed. "Okay," I said, then went back to the couch and picked up my math book, working through 3 more problems while Grandpa's breathing got shallower until it stopped completely. 20 minutes later, Dad emerged to use the bathroom and saw Grandpa slumped in the chair. "Dad! Dad!" He rushed over and checked for a pulse, then started shouting for me to call 911 while he began compressions. The paramedics arrived with boots thudding, working over him before one shook his head. At the hospital, the doctor told Dad it was a massive cardiac arrest, and given how long it had been, there was nothing anyone could have done. "These things happen fast," he said. "By the time someone notices, it's often too late." Dad turned to me in the waiting room, his face gray with guilt. "Why didn't you wake me when you heard the noises?" I folded my hands neatly in my lap and looked up at him with the same expression I'd worn so many afternoons. "You told me never to wake you unless the house was on fire," I said quietly. "I knocked, but you said to let him sleep, and Grandpa always said that I should never bother you when you're resting." The truth was, I had practiced this conversation a dozen times, and that night I slept better than I had in months, knowing his death meant my survival.